Okay, beautiful. Welcome students, sleep mastery participants. I have the pleasure of introducing two very special people to you today. This is Thomas and Bobsy, and they own Luminous Red Light. I believe that's the name of the company, and they provide affordable and, I don't want to butcher it, but high top of the line red light machines for red light therapy for individuals to optimize their life and heal their bodies. And it's my great pleasure to introduce them to you today. And my hope is that they will be able to help you understand what this is, this whole red light thing, and get a greater knowledge so you too can see if it's right for you and if it works for you and can help you achieve the goals that you wish to have. So without further ado, here they are.
Hello.
Hey, and thanks so much for having us here. It's a pleasure for us.
We're super excited to dive into the whole topic of red light therapy, also focus a little bit on sleep because that's what you're all about. So we're just excited to spread the knowledge, share the love, and be here.
It's beautiful. Yes. So first, tell us what where you guys come from, what generated all this, what did you guys study, and give us some background so we know who you are.
So long story short, we're Bobby and Thomas, as you've already said. We started a little over a year ago with Luminous Red, and basically what got us into the whole topic is our own personal needs. We both had some issues. For me, it was more on the mental, psychological side. And for Thomas, it was more on the physical side.
Yeah, exactly. I had a big operation, and basically everything after that should have been normal, but it wasn't for me. So my complete body was in shock. My hormonal system broke down. And for the first time in my life, also my sleep was really bad. So I couldn't sleep for more than, I would say, 2 to 3 hours. I always woke up at exactly 3 in the morning and couldn't get back to sleep. So I had to do something, or we had to do something, and we tried out all kind of things, especially in the area of biohacking, I would say. So we took a lot of supplements, did meditations for certain sports and so on. And we also tried out technologies that could help cope with that. Yeah, so that's where it got us. So for us, what made the biggest difference in Babsi's mental issues and my, especially sleep and also like hormonal balance, it was light, basically. It had the biggest lever, and it was the easiest to apply.
And also it kind of felt like the most natural thing we gravitated towards, because Thomas is a lighting designer and lighting technician by training, and I'm a psychologist, and it kind of, I don't know, it just felt natural to kind of get the idea behind light being so important to us and light affecting us in a very meaningful and deep way. Also, not only from a psychological standpoint, but also from a deep biological standpoint. So yeah, that was kind of what got it all started. We're both not feeling so well. Thomas already mentioned like his sleep issues, and we're in a relationship, and with me obviously sleeping in the same bed as him, it kind of affected my sleeping patterns as well, because I kind of started noticing that I was watching him and kind of checking on him if he's sleeping, if he's feeling okay. So it kind of had this crazy ripple effect, especially on both of our sleep patterns, which just went crazy. And yeah, light was the natural thing that really helped us, and we got really good results really fast. And we built our own red light room at home basically, and tested out a bunch of different devices. And then Thomas, with all of his knowledge in like lighting design and technology, and me, hi Dougie, and me with my psychological background, we kind of checked all of those different companies out and had like different conversations just in our bathroom, like, oh, this is a little bit weird, maybe we'll do this differently. And the major things that we kind of wanted to change or would have done differently were like technical aspects, but also community aspects and research aspects and knowledge aspects, kind of.
Yeah, because we saw it's kind of a new technology, I would say, in the way it is used right now. And then it's very experimental, and you really have to dig deep in order to really reap the benefits from it. So that's why we thought, hey, let's make it easier. Let's make it better for everyone to apply, and therefore create value for a lot of people, as we saw that it helped us and that there are so many benefits out there in the scientific world. So yeah.
And both of us truly believe that like those basic and kind of minimalistic things like light, for example, affect us in deep and meaningful ways. So it felt really good to have that kind of eureka moment of saying, this is so simple, why isn't everyone using this? Let's push it out there and tell people about it, basically. So we started with that, and we've been growing ever since, getting lots of great feedback, and now we're here.
Exactly.
That's beautiful. I love that. So you guys talked about your own personal struggles that you went through, and how by searching and, you know, all this time spent, and I'm sure money spent on different lighting machines and all of this, right? And the different supplements and biohacking your bodies to heal. What are some of the things that, obviously light is one of the biggest things that you saw a benefit from, but what are some of the other things that you saw a benefit from?
I would say for me personally, and I also saw it that it was for you, it had the biggest benefit apart from light. It was basically establishing a rhythm in your day. So basically, like telling your body and your mind that everything is okay, and showing them when things happen and when things should happen. So this means for me or for us, it was like taking a walk in the early morning, so that you give yourself time to wake up, that you give yourself time to also, in that sense, get the light from outside, from the sun, and really wake up. Or having a meal every day at the same time, for example, your lunch. And so I think this was the biggest thing. And also in the evening, to really calm down and allow yourself to disconnect from daily life. I think that's the biggest impact for me or for us.
Yeah, we kind of went back to that primal state of, I don't know, like 100 years ago, how people used to live, which we're so not accustomed to anymore. And kind of living by that internal clock we all have, and actually taking the time and allowing to get up when the sun rises and do things, again, really minimalistic and simple things like going out barefoot, gazing into the sun, and actually waking up and not just laying in bed, taking your phone and scrolling through social media. Exactly. But yeah, kind of getting that whole rhythm and getting security through that rhythm as well, because when everything is just going crazy and you're in that panic stress mode, you don't really know where to hold on to. And this rhythm and those habits and that internal clock basically really got us stabilized and feeling good again.
Yes.
That's beautiful. So when you're finding your rhythms, because I've found that everyone's slightly different. You know, we have the circadian rhythm, which is a good blueprint, but you know, if you're not working a 9 to 5 and you're waking up at 4 a.m, or if you're going to bed at 3 a.m, your circadian rhythm is going to be a little different than that clock, right? If you go to bed at 2 a.m, you're not really going to start producing cortisol at 6 a.m. Like, that doesn't really make any sense. Your body wouldn't do that to you. So how did you guys, what did you use to educate yourself about your own cycles, your own sort of ups and downs? Or was it just, did it just kind of evolve as you went along? Did you use any blueprint, or
As I would say, initially we used a lot of blueprints. So this means, especially when talking about sleep and so on, initially we tried to really keep a rhythm and go to bed every day at the same
At a
time,
specific time,
wake up or get up at the same time. I think this was at first for us, it was important to regain our energy, as this was the biggest problem for me personally, as I have initially I didn't sleep for a month or so, so I was really low on energy. And I needed to regain it. And once we both regained the energy and also the security, so that our mind and our body are okay, and that we can live normal again, basically, then we started to experiment. And also, in terms of rhythms, we saw that it's a few tiny markers that we need to set, or anchors that we need to set, in order to get our bodies to adapt and see, hey, everything is okay, and also to switch modes. So I think we haven't really had that we go to bed, I don't know, at 2 in the morning or 5 in the morning, because we're not party animals.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that could, on the other hand, also be a big problem, as your body then doesn't produce the right hormones or other substances in order to create your rhythm. But what we saw is, if we kind of manage to stay within these realms, it works out for us. And if we then add on top things like light therapy, or also that we go out in the morning. I think that's also a big one for us, that we go out in the morning, look in the sun or in the sky, and basically tell our body, hey, it's day, wake up. I think those two things, to get up, get out, and also in the evening calm down, and maybe use things like light therapy to enable the body to perform at its optimal level and recharge. I think those are big and important things for us.
But it's also a lot of trial error. Not everybody is the same. Not only the internal clock, but also the measures that you take don't work the same way for everyone. And especially, I think so, if you take things from the outside, like a red light therapy device, or I don't know, if you work out and do all the whole equipment and all of that, you kind of have to figure out what resonates with me. When do I use it? How do I use it? And how often do I use it? And all of that stuff. So I think the most important thing is to kind of have that environment of, I'm allowing this. I will consciously take the time for this to figure it out. And as soon as I got it down, I want to be flexible in, like, maybe moving stuff around a little bit and having those anchors, or how did you call them? Yeah, anchors of, again, very basic and simple things. It shouldn't be too much and too hard to do on a daily basis, because then you won't do it. If you kind of can focus on those essentials, I think it will look different for everyone.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, I love the idea of anchoring a practice, or what, so the anchor in the morning is get outside, connect with the earth, get the sunlight. And then the anchor in the afternoon might be move your body or whatever, right? And for each person, like you said, it's going to be different. Maybe the early morning anchor is move their body, and then the afternoon anchor is get sun, right? So it works best for each individual will find it. But I like the idea of every day sort of just having a few things that you hone in on, right? You can fill all the space in between it with whatever you want to do. But having a few things that you do every day at around the same time, so that first of all, you can track it, right? You can measure it and say, okay, these were days, whatever, you can keep it consistent and notice when it works and when it doesn't work and all that. But yeah, I love that. I love that idea. All right, so let's get into light. Let's dive in. So I recently have come across some learnings on specifically sunlight, and how sunlight and how it works with our skin, and how we don't photosynthesize. Obviously, we're not plants, but the hemoglobin in the body, how it almost acts like chlorophyll, and I don't know, maybe you would be more you would better explain this. So yes, go ahead. I'll leave you guys to it.
Yeah, I think with light, we always have to. I think the easiest explanation is to always think about two systems, even though they may be interlinked in some way. But in science, we're not that far yet. So basically, you always have light in two ways. The first is through your eyes, and this means how you see your world around you, and also this triggers a lot in terms of our circadian rhythm and how we perceive the day. And the second thing is how we receive light through our skin or through everything around us. Yeah, and I think those two things, it's the easiest if you first of all disconnect it for ease of understanding. And yeah, so the first thing through the eyes, we already talked a bit before regarding circadian rhythm and so on. So we know, and it's not that old of scientific practice, or that science got behind this, is that the light that we see through our eyes is not just there for us to perceive our world around us, but also it basically directs our Zeitgeber in our brain or in our whole body. So it acts as a kind of a photo cell, I would say, meaning that in the morning when you get up, go out, you see blue light, and this signals the body, hey, it's day, get up, get all your systems up and running, and for example, start the serotonin production. And then your body gets up, gets going. And once we see outside that it slowly gets darker, or the spectrum of the light also changes, then our body calms down and starts the melatonin production. And then during the evening, usually, because we as humans, we are only used to artificial light for the past 100 years or so. So our bodies couldn't adapt. No chance. So this means we are still used to having light only provided by the sun, and maybe in the evening in the form of fire. So this is also interesting, as it's only, I think, 10 years or so old, the research that says, okay, how do our eyes react to light, or to different light? So this means that what we saw is that light provided by a fire, for example, so that is very orangey or red, it doesn't distract our circadian rhythm. So the melatonin production still goes on, even if we sit by a fire, for example. And that's very interesting to see that we as humans adapted to this light we know for the past thousands and thousands of years, but not the light that we know nowadays. So meaning that artificial light nowadays is more in the bluish spectrum, and it really disturbs our circadian rhythm, and also suppresses melatonin production, or wrecks melatonin in the evening.
But also can have other negative effects. A lot of people who work in offices all day, or at a as a cashier, are surrounded by those fluorescent lights, by the blue light all day, and you can see negative health effects happening, like headaches, depression, also anxiety rises. So it's really interesting to see how that kind of light doesn't only affect our natural rhythm and our natural clock, but actually can harm our health and our optimal functioning.
And this is often, I think, to be seen in this second function of light. So through our skin and also through our eyes in other ways. But yeah, I think the second big thing of light that we are only slowly getting a hang of, and only slowly researching nowadays, is the use of light on our skin. And as you said, there is research that suggests, and we also know that from when we go out in the sun and are tanning, we have, first of all, get a tan, but we also see a lot of other effects in our body, like the vitamin D going up. and this signals the body multiple things. And also what we see in turns is that in the winter, it's not only that we do not get enough light through our eyes, but also through our body, and we feel depressed, we feel down, we feel low in energy. And it is as early as I think the 1960s that NASA started to research. It was based on plants. So they started to research what light do plants need. And then they ventured into humans and thought, okay, if we now know how plants function, or we think we know how plants function, maybe we can derive some of the knowledge and use it for humans. And what they found out is that it's different light that does different things to our skin, or through our skin. And as we all know, as I said, UV light, for example, it gives us a tan. It also helps with vitamin D synthesis. But they also found out that the light that we see during the sunrise and sundown, this really reddish or near infrared light, is also very powerful for us. And it has a lot of upside potential or benefits, or could have, with few downside potentials like UV light has. That's a very interesting topic in research for the past 20, 30 years, that we saw a steep rise in new publications, especially during the last 5 to 10 years. And as you said, we now slowly start to realize, okay, it does something within our body. So it interacts with our blood, or even what we now start to realize, it interacts with the cells within our body, the really core of who we are and how we function. And it allows our cells to function at their optimum and basically use the energy we take in from food from the outside and convert it to chemical energy within our bodies in the most elegant and optimal fashion that we know.
So basically, the idea is nothing new of red light therapy. We just take those optimal wavelengths from the sun, which occur naturally during sunrise and sunset. That's in the range of 600 to 900 nanometers. Research has shown that those are the optimal biological wavelengths where we humans have the best response to. And we just take those wavelengths, use them, put them in a device, and you can now have them for at-home use as well. So it's not to be seen as a substitute for sunlight, but as something that you can use additionally, especially if you know you have maybe a little bit too much of the bad light or not so good light, for example, the blue light especially, which is technology basically. And yeah, that's kind of the idea behind red light therapy, taking that light and feeling better if you have health issues, but also optimizing yourself. It's a big topic for optimal performance, for functioning, but also longevity, anti-aging, a lot of use cases and topics it can help with.
Yeah, so the cool thing that I saw about specifically sunlight was how, you mentioned it very briefly, Thomas, was the fact that it doesn't necessarily give us more energy, but it does because it makes our energy production more
efficient,
optimized,
right? So it doesn't take sunlight and give us energy from it technically, but because it helps the way we take in energy from food and yada 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 and water and all that, because it helps us optimize that energy, it technically does help us with energy levels.
Yeah, it's basically boosting, you're priming yourself for superhuman performance and powers, and that's the
I think it's two mechanisms how it works. So first of all, it basically oils the machine. So within our cells we have the mitochondria. These are the powerhouses of our cells that convert this energy derived from food into chemical or cellular energy called ATP that can be used within our body. And what seems to be the case is that first of all, light allows our mitochondria to work more efficiently. So it basically acts as kind of
I think oil. Yeah, the way you
Well,
said
yeah,
it,
within
oiling
ourselves.
the machines,
That's how
right?
we call it.
Yeah, that's great.
And the second thing is it also boosts the function. So it tells the body or the mitochondria to boost the conversion of energy. So it allows for more energy production, and in some terms, and therefore allows the body to use that energy, or to use the more energy that's now there, basically.
And the interesting thing is, the older we get, the less our mitochondria actually functions. So
Right.
especially as we age, those red light therapy devices or sunlight make a lot of sense, because you want those anti-aging and boosted effects.
Yeah. So when you have a red light machine, what is specifically happening with red light that's different than sunlight? Obviously, we get it at some of the times during the sunrise, sunset, right? Those early morning hours and those evening hours. So what's sort of the difference between direct sunlight and red light? And then what are the best, I guess, times, or what's a good protocol, I guess we could say, with introducing red light therapy into your life?
So basically, with the at-home devices, again, we take those wavelengths, but we also make them more intense. You can roughly say that both the red and the near infrared light that we're using with our LEDs is 5 times more potent than those parts when you get them from the sun. So much more intense. Then red light, in comparison to near infrared light, is a more superficial kind of light. So we always say to our customers or family members, as we call them, what do you want out of red light therapy? Because depending on what you want to achieve or what you want to work on, that's what dictates your protocol and your treatment and dosing. Okay. So red is a more superficial light. It's great for skin healing, for hair growth, for wounds, scars, and stuff like that. Also pain and inflammation. Okay. And then near infrared light is a deep tissue, reaches into your deep tissue, and that is that light that actually reaches inside of our cells, reaches inside of the mitochondria, creates more energy, and can help with muscle recovery, more cellular energy, as I already said, but also inflammation.
Right, and so, inflammation is
huge.
It's huge, right? And
we all have
in our Western world, right? Our Western world. Although it's becoming an issue everywhere, because China and Japan are trying to copy the West, and now they have obesity and they have high levels of inflammation and higher levels of diabetes and all these things that related to inflammation. So you're telling me if someone wants superficial, they do it this way. If someone, their appearance is not a portion of what they're looking to heal, so then you're going to offer that, you're going to suggest a different way of using it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the cool thing is that with most devices, not only ours, you can switch if you want one of either wavelength, or you want to use both wavelengths at the same time. And a lot of biohackers also do this, that they just put on both wavelengths at the same time and kind of stack all effects.
Right. Well,
and therefore achieve overall health and well-being. But I think we're like one of the very few ones out there who also kind of are pro one wavelength treatments.
Okay.
Because if you really focus on what you want, that's much more efficient in our way. So it's not about that whole idea of standing in front of a light, turning all of the lights on, standing there for 10 minutes at, 5 inches, and then being happy, walking away, and that's it. That's not how we see that, and how we want to also advertise red light therapy. It's much more about where am I, where do I want to get, and what are the steps I need to take to achieve that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, go ahead, Thomas. Looks like you want to add something.
Especially with something like sleep, it's a lot of experimentation, and as you said earlier, a lot of tracking also. So I think it's, if you do something, so for example, if you within your coaching or your courses, you give value to people out there, and they get their sleep back. They are able to, and maybe they want to optimize it even more. Then I think one should be very delicate about what to add to the regimen in order not to disturb anything. And so I think it's important also, if you do light, that you make it in a way that it's kind of trackable, or that you know what could have gone wrong if something doesn't function as prior anymore.
Yeah. In the sense of creating any new habit, right? You don't want to add, first of all, just for the ability to achieve the goal, you don't want to add 10 new habits all at once, because how are you going to do that? And then second of all, how do you know if it's working? And if you add 5 new habits, like you start juicing, you start fasting, you start taking this supplement, and you do red light, and you start with morning yoga every day, like, how do you know which one's helping the most? You have no idea.
But also, you're more likely not to do that for the rest of your life or for a longer period of time.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah. So when it comes, so you guys, when you guys use your devices, how is it that you guys use it for right now?
Yeah, so right now what we do is Babsi is using it a lot for, as you can see, skin health and so on.
She looks beautiful, by the
way. And I love to use the device. She also uses it for performance optimization and to get her body going, but also for skin health, yeah. And for me, it's I love to use it in the early morning. And so it's to get started for the day, also to be in front of the device for 10 minutes or so, to really calm down, also meditate a bit, and give myself energy and prime my body for starting the day. But also what we both love to do is to use it in the evening, so to prime ourselves for sleep. As there's also, maybe one misconception in the whole biohacking sector that is going on is that red light, as it's a light and it's red, it's good for the night because it doesn't disturb your melatonin production. And yeah, that's true, because it's the most of the red light devices start at 600 nanometers of light, so in a deep reddish light, it doesn't disturb your melatonin production, but it doesn't directly supercharge your production in a way, in terms of the light that hits your eye. But what research is suggesting nowadays, and it's still in very experimental phases, but there are a few papers going on that suggest that red light can help a lot with sleep. So in terms of melatonin concentration within our bodies, also in terms of deep sleep quality and deep sleep time, and on regeneration during sleep. And I think these are very interesting things, and therefore what we use it a lot is before we go to sleep. We use, as Babsi said, we want to focus on different things. So we use near infrared light before going to sleep. This is basically a light that you cannot really see, as it's almost invisible. So it's just a light pinkish shimmer, and we humans cannot really perceive it. So it's not a red that you always see in advertisements, but more of, it doesn't look like anything. But what this does, it goes really deep within our body. And especially in the evening, where we need to calm down, where we need to relax, and also, prime our bodies for sleep. This is especially interesting and used by a lot of longevity experts, and also a few scientists that are doing research in the field. They use it themselves as they are a bit older, oftentimes, so in their 60s, 70s, and they see that the melatonin production in the evening is not as good anymore, or even almost non-existent anymore because of the age. They now want to highlight everything they can. And so the interesting thing is that the effects that red light has for regeneration, allowing the body to function at optimal performance, and so on, a hormonal balance, it really adds up if you use it for optimizing your sleep, I would say. Because for sleep, what we saw and what's also in a few research papers is that oftentimes we have some kind of inflammation that we do not feel during the day, but during night when our body really can listen to, or our mind can listen to what the body says, this can be a problem. Or also certain pains, like if you have a slight headache, and maybe during the day you can almost
push through, yeah.
But in the night when your body is really present, it can become a problem and disturb the sleep itself and the quality and duration. So yeah.
I think it's really interesting because when we started with the whole topic of red light therapy, kind of the first thing you stumble upon is do red light therapy, it increases your melatonin levels. And I also thought the same thing. I thought, okay, if you want to sleep better, you need to sit in front of the red light, specifically that one single wave treatment, and then you're going to sleep better. But as we dove deeper into research, I think it's so much more interesting to see that it's not as easy, especially when you look at the hormonal system. It's not as easy as only having that correlation between red light and melatonin, but it's other different chemical and also hormonal reactions that happen that therefore boost the melatonin levels. So we're always kind of critical when we read red light equals higher melatonin levels, because it turns out, especially the near infrared light, which is the invisible light, not even the warm light, as we said, with the whole circadian rhythm, is the one that affects us even more. So that's also, I think, one of the biggest messages we kind of want to get out there today, especially focusing on sleep, is that it's not as easy. Same thing with vitamin D. We say you can always only get it through sunlight and not through red light therapy, because UV classically, in the classical sense, raises your vitamin D levels. But what we're also seeing in research is that red light therapy boosts your magnesium levels, and through boosted magnesium levels, your vitamin D will rise naturally as well. So we kind of want to say it's a really complicated topic, and therefore makes it even more important to know where you want to go and how you want to use something. Doesn't matter if it's red light or anything else. You should be very conscious and proactive about how you want to achieve certain things, I think.
Yeah. That is amazing. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me that, indirectly, that there are all these other activations and benefits, because that's just how the body inherently works.
Exactly.
No matter what you do, if you aren't someone who goes out and gets sunlight every day, and you just start doing that, it's not just going to give you a little bit of energy and lock in your circadian rhythm. Like, it's going to help you feel better about yourself, reduce inflammation, optimize how your cells operate. You're going to choose better nutrients just naturally, right? So it's like, there are so many hidden benefits that's amazing. And it's cool that they're able to sort of quantify it, right? They're learning how to quantify it, and all the different, like the information you just shared about the magnesium, it's like, how did they even figure that out, right? It's but they did, so it's great. And I'm sure there's more hidden underneath. I'm sure there's
a lot more.
I'm sure there's a lot more.
Even something like the magnesium, I mean, I'm 99% sure that this is also not a single factor that's influenced there. So I think it's also in regards to, for me, it's about light, and especially red and near infrared light. So for me, the core or the base that maybe you can derive from science so far is that it oils up your cells and it allows them to produce more energy and produce energy in a more efficient and elegant way. And so I think if you use that core message or that core idea, you can grasp that there is a lot of potential and a lot of use cases. And also what we see in science is oftentimes it's focused on problems. So they have, for example, for this study where they saw, okay, it's much better deep sleep quality and deep sleep time. They used it with patients that had migraines, and then they saw, they have much better sleep. maybe because migraines are not that strong anymore because of the light. And so you have a lot of interlinks, and I think it's important to see that it's different for everyone and should be treated on an individual basis, but we cannot do that in science. Science doesn't function that way.
Mm.
That's why we as biohackers, we try to find out things that could benefit a lot of people a lot without much downsides. And I think light, or in specific these wavelengths of light, we saw that in the last 30 years, there have been so many studies with a lot of potential benefits and with very few downsides. So I think it's worth a shot.
Mm.
And you can see for yourself on your individual basis how much it can help you, and experiment for yourself. Interesting, but also complicated.
Yeah, amazing. So I did have one last sort of final question for the, I don't know if I'm dubbing this part of society right, but there is a sort of biohacking, but it's a holistic biohacking group of people that might be hesitant to get on board with all of the technology because they're afraid of, you know, the perceived effect of EMFs and the radioactivity of anything that's technological in nature. And so for those people, what would you say? You don't need to take too long, but if you just had a little bit and maybe something that they've studied, I don't know. I haven't looked into this on red light specifically. So
I think the most important thing is we can only say this about our device because we
Right.
built it and we know what's happening. But as a general advice, I think two things are very important for holistic biohackers. Is flicker rate and also EMF rate. So those are two things that you should look for when you get a high quality red light therapy device for at home use.
Okay.
And with our devices, you get 0 flicker. What we have to say is that it's normal for every electronic device to have flicker, obviously, because that's how they work. But here comes Thomas's knowledge as a lighting technician, is that if you use higher quality components to build a device, and if you maybe use more complex or expensive drivers, for example, you can very easily minimize those effects, especially with flicker. And we really decided on quality with our devices. So we have a high quality driver, which allows for 0 flicker technology, which not every company has because it costs more money. And the second thing is EMF. And with our device, we also have 0 EMF at all distances.
At the distance you use it. Yeah. And I think, I think regarding the holistic approach to these things, I think it can be really valid, especially because what we also talked a bit before. I mean, we both are scientists. We are both PhD students, but I personally am also really critical about science, because science is nothing more than experimenting and documenting things, and use the most prominent thing is all swans are white unless you see the first black swan. And so I think with science we can only go so far, and especially having that holistic approach where you say, okay, maybe there are some waves like EMF, or maybe something like flicker in lights or also around us can be bad for us. These are hypotheses and they can't be valid. We don't know that yet. So what I personally, or we always try to do is, we know for a fact that we as humans like evolved in a world in the past thousands of years. And that what we do now with technology is very different. It's a very different approach, and we don't know yet how our bodies react to it. So the only thing that we can do, I think, and that we always try to do and strive to do, is replicate nature as much as we can. And this means we know that light from the sun doesn't flicker. So it is a constant form of light. Also light from fire doesn't flicker. And maybe, because there are, in red light therapy, there are some scientists or research papers that suggest if a light flickers, it could have additional benefits. But we are not so certain about it yet. So what we try and what we always do, and as Babsi said, with our devices, we build in very complicated driver system and electrical devices in order to have zero flickers. It is a constant light that we use, and that is as much as the sun as we can recreate. And also, in terms of EMF, we know that it can be bad for a lot of people, and some people are more sensitive to it than others. And so what we also do, and I think it is a bit of a trade-off with our device, I would say, because we build our devices out of very strong metal and thick metal in order to basically block away all the magnetic waves that we can. And that at a distance where you stand from the device, we have zero EMF. And so it's, maybe we don't know yet if it is necessary, but we should strive to do it, as we don't know that much about it yet. And so the worst thing that can happen is we put in a bit of more money into the development or a bit more effort. It doesn't do anything, or we realize in a few years, hey, EMF is not a thing, or flicker is not a thing. Maybe it is, and that is why we should focus on it also now, and strive to create the best possible tools for everyone out there.
But I think maybe one more sentence to close it all off. It doesn't really matter what product or service you're buying from someone. It really comes down to values, your own values and the values of a company. And I think, yes, things like that are very important, and we definitely acknowledge them. But we think if you're looking for a red light therapy device, you will find a company that resonates with your personal views, with your personal values, and you should go for that company. I think that's much more important than anything else.
True. That is the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, gravitate towards the people that you yourself like, or, I mean, we normally do this anyways, right? This is why, you know, Tony Robbins has been the coach of all coaches for the past 30 years, right? Because he got out, he invented the field really in the 90s. And people gravitate towards him. And so that's why he's, you know, coached thousands and thousands of people is because of that. If he would have come out and people didn't vibe with him as much as they did, then, you know, the proof is in the pudding, so to say. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate this conversation, guys. I do have to say that we are at the end. And I hope that everyone watching has gotten as much value as I have just in this quick little conversation that we've had. I've learned a lot, and I thank you so much for your time. And go ahead and let people know how they can find you.
Thank you for listening, Patrick, but all of you who will watch that video, thank you for taking the time. That's basically the most important thing to us. We love sharing value and knowledge, so thank you for that. If you want to find us, the easiest way is Instagram. We also have a Facebook page. We're just called Luminous Red Live.
Or luminousred.com.
Or luminousred.com, yeah. We also have a website.
Yeah. Skip the Instagram. Go straight to the website.
Our product doesn't matter. Yeah, check out what we're doing. We definitely put all our heart and soul into it. We live for this. This is our baby, and thank you. That's all we have to say, I think.
Thank you. Well, it's sure been a pleasure, and we are